Hello and welcome. My name is Virginia Madoran, and I am one of the co-directors of the North Carolina Deafblind Project. Today I'm here to share with you a potential tool that an IEP team could use in order to determine whether or not a student with deafblindness requires the services of a deafblind intervener. This IEP team discussion guide is entitled, "Are Intervener Services Appropriate for Your Student with Deafblindness?" And it was developed by the National Center on Deafblindness as a tool to assist IEP teams with making informed decisions about whether intervener services are appropriate for a student with deafblindness. This recording is offered by the North Carolina Deafblind Project. The North Carolina Deafblind Project is a federally funded grant through the Office of Special Education Programs and is administered through the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction in the Office of Exceptional Children. The mission of the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction and the North Carolina Deafblind Project is to assist educators, related service providers, and families to gain knowledge to enable children who are deafblind to access the general curriculum and to gain skills and experiences that prepare them to successfully transition to adult life. The North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, in collaboration with the East Carolina University Teacher Support Program for Learners with Deafblindness and the Exceptional Children's Assistance Center, directs grant activities such as the annual Child Count Census, educator support activities such as financial support to attend professional development activities, educational training for families, and collaboration with other state deafblind projects. The contents of this presentation were developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Education. However, those contents do not necessarily represent the policy of the U.S. Department of Education, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Students who are deafblind have combined hearing and visual impairments that impact their ability to fully access their environments. This can mean absent, partial, or even distorted ranges of vision and hearing, which impact access to visual and auditory information necessary for learning and communication. Intervener services are one way to meet the challenge of providing students who are deafblind with access to information they are unable to gather via vision and hearing, and to help them compensate for the difficulties with communication and concept development that occur as a result of their deafblindness. On this slide, you will see the front page of the IEP team discussion guide being shared today, entitled, "Are Intervener Services Appropriate for Your Student with Deafblindness?" There are currently no accepted or standardized criteria to determine if a student requires intervener services. The decision is based on the needs of a particular student as determined by the student's IEP team. This guide should be used within the context of a student's IEP. Its specific intent is to determine if intervener services should be provided to a student as part of his or her service provision. IEP teams may find that this document also informs broader IEP discussion in a number of areas, including review of evaluation data, consideration of the communication needs of a student who is deaf or hard of hearing, and present levels of academic achievement and functional performance for a student with deafblindness. In order to make an informed decision, the IEP team must clearly understand how the student's deafblindness affects his or her access to information, communication, social relationships, and conceptual development, as combined hearing and vision loss typically substantially limits access in each of these areas. The IEP team must also understand the supports and accommodations needed by the student to obtain access in those areas. Before the IEP team considers whether an intervener is appropriate and needed for a particular student, the team members must have a common understanding of what intervener services are and what interveners do, as well as assure that someone on the student's IEP team has expertise in deafblindness. Because of the low incidence of deafblindness, many teachers and related service providers have little to no experience with students who are deafblind and may have a limited understanding of their unique needs. Therefore, the IEP team should include a member with expertise in the education of students who are deafblind. If the students team does not currently include an individual with this specific knowledge or training, the North Carolina Deafblind Project can help. Next, the team must also ensure that appropriate evaluation data, including data by evaluators with expertise in deafblindness, are available to the team. IEP teams should review the student's current evaluation data and determine if any new data is required in order to make the decision. This data might include, but is not limited to, use of vision, hearing, and other senses to access information, communication modes and skills, analysis of the student's behavior as a form of communicative intent, concept development and learning needs, learning media and assistive technology needs, daily living skills, orientation and mobility needs, as well as opportunities to interact with others, including family members, peers, and service providers. Following these initial preliminary steps, IEP teams are poised to begin discussion and use of the guide. The remainder of this document is organized as a guide for the IEP team to address 6 specific topics. Number 1, the student's use of residual vision. Number 2, the student's use of residual hearing. Number 3, how the student accesses information. Number 4, the student's communication modes and needs. Number 5, the student's social interactions and relationships. And number 6, the student's understanding of concepts and concept development. Following the consideration of these areas, the document offers a team conclusions page where team members can document determined next steps, supports, adaptations, and whether or not an intervener is recommended for the student with deafblindness. We recognize that meeting the needs of learners with deafblindness may come with questions, and your North Carolina Deafblind Project is here to help support your understanding of those needs. The North Carolina Deafblind Project has 4 co-directors, Dr. Alan Chase and myself, Virginia Madoran, with the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, Dr. Sandra Warren with the ECU Teacher Support Program, and Deborah Pickens with the Exceptional Children's Assistance Center. Please feel free to contact the North Carolina Deafblind Project partners if you need further support.